Now, when you're going to use autopilot and you have decided to use device IDs to recognize the machines that are going to get reconfigured, there is one thing you have to set up in order for this to work before we can start utilizing deployment profiles and all that. And that is, you must have a special type of group that is going to be associated with these devices that are utilizing device ID. So just to kind of reiterate what I'm saying, if I go here on endpoint.microsoft.com and I click devices, okay, and I go down here to enroll devices, and then I go to devices under the autopilot deployment profile, I have already imported a device ID. The problem is I need a way to recognize this utilizing what's called a deployment profile. A deployment profile is going to decide what configuration I'm going to deploy to this machine, but you have to associate that with a group. Okay, so to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to groups. All right, and we're going to click to create a new group. And this must be a security group, because security groups are the only kinds of groups that can contain devices. And then we'll just give it a name, autopilot managed. Okay, and the other thing that has to happen is the type of group will need to be a dynamic device, because we're going to create a little rule. Now, what if it wasn't? Well, if it wasn't, you could actually have a group that just has a bunch of devices in it, and you could tell autopilot to manage those devices. But remember, part of the fun of autopilot is that I'm buying a bunch of machines perhaps, and I want these machines just to boot up and magically know that they're supposed to be managed by autopilot. If you've already got a bunch of machines, yes, you can create a group and you can put them in those machines, or put the machine names in the group, okay? You can do that. But then you have to trigger the machines to be reset, which I'm going to, we'll talk more about that coming up. So the idea here, though, is I've got brand new machines that need to be managed by autopilot. So I'm going to do dynamic device, and then I'm going to go to add a query. All right, now if we go to Google or Bing and just do a quick search for these words, autopilot dynamic security group, Microsoft has an article that we can click on. If we scroll down, they tell you what needs to be typed here. And it's this right here, to create a group that includes all your autopilot devices. Okay, you're going to want to put this query in right here. So I'm going to copy that. All right, copy that information that you see there. They have some other examples too, but for our needs, what we want to do is identify all the devices that have a device ID. So we'll do that. We'll copy that, and now we're going to go right here to where it says edit. We're going to paste this in, and we're going to click OK. All right, so we've now added this little rule that we need in order to make this work. Okay, so we've got everything in there. Let me just double check. I want to double check and make sure I don't have any errors here. Okay, so any errors? No, I think all of this is correct. So I think we should be okay. All right, so everything should be correct, and then I'm going to click save, and then I'm going to click to create this group. All right, so we've now officially got the group that we need in order for autopilot profiles to be able to detect any devices that we have associated device IDs with. Now I want to show you the creation of a deployment profile. All right, so this is an out-of-box experience deployment profile that can be managed by Intune. So we'll go right here. I'm just going to open up a new tab for this, and that's going to bring us here into devices. All right, and I'm going to go to enroll devices. All right, and here we have deployment profiles. Okay, now notice one thing I do want to point out that I think is very important to understand here is that autopilot is only available for Windows. It is not available for any other operating system. Okay, so this is why we have selected the blade here where it says Windows enrollment. It is only available. Autopilot is a feature that's only available for Windows, and basically it's Windows 10 and higher are the only operating systems that supported it. So we'll go to deployment profiles, and now we're ready to click to create a profile. We're going to go with Windows PC here, All right, and we'll give it a name. Okay. We'll just call this autopilot demo. All right, and then it does say, do you want to convert all targeted devices to autopilot? So this would be if I was using a group. Usually what you do is, like, if you had a group that you had associated here on the assignments tab, we haven't got there yet, but if you had a group that you had associated on the assignments tab, it would automatically make them all autopilot devices if you did this. If you choose yes to that. Okay, so they're telling you right here, select yes to register all targeted devices to autopilot if they are not already registered. So if they don't already have device IDs, then you could go ahead and make them support autopilot. It says the next time registered devices go through the out-of-box experience, they'll go through the autopilot server. So what is that saying? Well, if you associated a group over here on the assignments tab that had, let's say, 50 Windows devices that are part of that group, okay? And these are like 50 devices that are already in use by people, okay? And you said yes to this. You're basically going to make them all autopilot devices. But really, to be honest with you, nothing's going to happen unless you trigger the out-of-box experience by performing a reset on those devices, okay? So that's all that means, all right? In my case, my device is a device that I could leave this set to yes or no. It doesn't really matter, and I'm going to end up with the same outcome. All right, so let's take a look at this. And just so you know, this screen changes. It feels like it changes every week. So I would not be surprised if it looks a little different if you're watching this video, just because it seems like it changes every week. But anyway. So how is this? We have a deployment mode. We can do user-driven or self-deployment. User-driven means that the user will have a little bit more control over the out-of-box experience. They'll have a little bit more control over the out-of-box experience than they would if you chose self-deployment. You'll notice that if you choose self-deployment, some of the stuff gets grayed out. Okay. So they don't get to change or mess with any of this stuff. I'm going to do user-driven, and then it says, do you want to show the? Oh, and then it says join Azure AD. So I can say join Azure AD, or if I want to do hybrid, I can have a hybrid domain join if I want. I'll just leave it set to join Azure AD right now. It says Microsoft software terms. Do you want to show the terms and make the user accept those, or do you want to hide them? Now keep in mind, if you choose hide, you're basically accepting the terms on behalf of the user. Privacy, same thing. You choose hide, you're accepting on behalf of the user. This right here, hide change account options, I highly recommend you don't allow a user to choose if they're going to be an admin. Okay, so I can go with that, hide, or the default type of user that will be on this machine will be a standard user. Okay. The next thing available here is the allow pre-provisioned deployment option. This used to be called the white glove feature. This is a scenario in which if you had a bunch of machines that needed to be reset very quickly, you can have software and everything just already installed on the machine. And so what this basically does is it says, hey, when you run autopilot, I don't want to wipe any of those applications. Let's just keep everything in there. I'm not going to get into a lot of depth on that. You can research that a little bit more, and you can learn how to configure and set that up. But I'm not really getting into that in this video. But that's what this is going to do for us. Here I've got language. Region, so I can set that to whatever I want. If I want to go with language default there, I can. And then you can set keyboard, automatically set the keyboard to yes or no, or let the user choose, or the user will have an opportunity to change it if you do user driven anyway. And then finally you can have a device name template. So whatever you want this device to be called. So I want to set this to, whatever I want this device to be named, I can do that. All right. So I can enter in a name here. Now, what you can do is you can put something like the name of your company, exam lab practice in my case, and then you could do like what they show as the example. You say, give it a random number. So I can say ELP-% rand : 5%. That's going to generate a 5-digit random number. Okay. Generally speaking, you do want to have some kind of a unique name that that you go with. Okay, I'm just going to put this in here because I've just got one machine that I'm doing this with. All right, so I'll click next, and then this is where I'm going to set assignments. So I'm going to click to add a group. All right, and the group I'm going to put is the autopilot managed group. And you'll notice you can do exclusion groups. I'm not going to get into a lot of details on that right now. Generally speaking, anytime in Intune, though, you have what's called an included group and an excluded group. Excluded groups always override included groups. So if you had a scenario where a device or a user was a member of both groups, it would get excluded. If you added, if I had, like, let's say I had a group called sales and another group called marketing, and I had, a device that was a member of both groups, well, it would get excluded. Okay, that's it in a nutshell. This video is not really explaining that in detail, but I'm just adding an included group here, and that's going to be the autopilot managed group. At that point, we're going to click next, and we're going to click create. We've now created our profile. Okay, something else that I want to do that is necessary, I want to make sure that what is known as auto-enrollment is turned on and within our autopilot environment. If this is a new version of Intune, it may not be. So this is something that that we definitely have to keep in mind. So if I go over here to devices and I go to enroll devices, I want to go here to automatic enrollment, and I just want to make sure that that this is set to all for MDM and all for MAM, and I need to click save. Now again, if this is a new Intune environment for you, these are probably set to none, so you need to turn that on. Okay. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to portal.azure.com. It's going to bring me over to Azure. I want to take a look at Azure Active Directory. So once I get to portal.azure, I'm going to click the menu button and go to Azure Active Directory. All right, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to go here where it says company branding. All right, and so right here, it asks me what I want the sign-in experience to look like when somebody signs in. Default sign-in, I can customize what it's going to look like. I can add a logo and stuff like that. In my case, I'm not going to add any kind of a logo or any of that stuff, but you could if you want to add a color, background, any of that. So let's see if there's anything else. There's sign-in form, banners, a logo. So I do want to add some sign-in text. I'm going to say welcome to exam lab practice. So I am going to put that, and then I'm going to click review and create. And click create. So when somebody is setting up, if their machine's being logged in to this through autopilot, it should say welcome to exam lab practice. All right. So at that point, we have now finished setting up our profile for autopilot. We've created a group, created our profile, and so that is how you're going to go through that process of setting up a autopilot deployment profile. Hey, this is John Christopher. I hope you enjoyed getting to experience a little bit of this course, and I hope you'll join me on the full adventure. If you'll check the description of this video, you'll see a link that'll show you how you can get access to the full course. Now, in the full course, you're going to learn how to set up a practice environment where you can practice hands-on, and I'm going to provide you with lots of virtual simulations that you can do 24/7. All you need is a web browser. So I hope you'll join me, and I hope you'll also give me a like and subscribe. I'm trying very, very hard to get this channel to build and grow, and so I hope you'll take the time to do that.